So, the satire video claimed that it was the opposition were saying it was racist to require voter identification, and yet in a place like Afghanistan, they dye the fingers of, regardless of what cultural background you come from, your finger gets dyed, and then you can't go vote anywhere else because they'll check your fingers.
On the Flow Morning Show, it's good to be with you this morning, and Ricky Lambert has joined me. A discussion on federal politics and about whether people vote early and vote often. It's a term that's been used over the years, and one that might well be something that now has got the Pauline Hanson One Nation people in trouble. Ricky, a video has emerged, but it's now no longer available on YouTube or other platforms, where it's Pauline Hanson's One Nation having a go at Labor and Greens voters about voting more than once at an election.
Yeah, you had to be quick to see this video, Wayne. Those that have enjoyed watching the South Park-style schoolyard satire of the Pauline Hanson One Nation Party, the video went up late last week. I managed to catch it on YouTube, but it's now gone, and for legal reasons, Wayne. One Nation may be in a spot of bother, and actually I've got some interesting comments from the South Australian Senate candidate about this.
Okay, so according to One Nation, they've put up a video that says that the Australian Electoral Commission should be looking into the situation of what's voter fraud. We've heard about this in America, where with their postal voting system, they had boxes that would be in the middle of the township. People would vote, bring their postal vote in, a little bit like we had with the marriage situation. These boxes would be used as collection points, but video footage and mobile phone pulsing and so forth has revealed that it seems that a lot of people seem to be going to those boxes very regularly and seem to be going to multiple boxes regularly. Now, in the same light, the accusation's been made in the Pauline Hanson One Nation video that this is happening where voters go to multiple booths to vote at an election.
This has kicked around in politics for quite some time in Australia, this concern, because all that happens at a booth, all you've got to be willing to do is lie to the person at the Electoral Commission, the volunteer there, when they ask you, have you voted anywhere else this election? The purpose of that question is to identify that you haven't voted anywhere else. People will lie and go and vote multiple times because the data checking has been inadequate in this area. So it's worth prosecuting. Remember, in the US as well, deceased people were also voting in elections. I would think every Australian, when Labor talks about one vote, one value, well, surely only votes that have value is that you have one vote per person and deceased people don't vote. Now, that's not happening in Australia. The deceased people won. But one vote, you should only be voting once. Now, the Electoral Commission is very sensitive about this claim in the satire video that they really don't prosecute this.
All right. Now, is there a situation where, say, Labor don't want any checks and balances at the polling booth, like, say, photograph evidence of your voting, or like, let's go overseas. I mean, Afghanistan, you would have thought one of the most remote parts of the world, they have a ink on the finger to show that you've been and voted that day.
So, the satire video claimed that it was the opposition were saying it was racist to require voter identification, and yet in a place like Afghanistan, they dye the fingers of, regardless of what cultural background you come from, your finger gets dyed and then you can't go vote anywhere else because they'll check your fingers. So they are requiring to lock this down. What I found fascinating about this video, I spoke with Jennifer Game, the South Australian Senate candidate, earlier today. You'll hear the full interview on the Flow News 24 podcast. She supports that the video was pulled and was actually questioning her own party's decision to run it at the time that they did.
Right, that's an interesting situation. So she's obviously quickly backing away from the legal situation, but we all agree that when COVID-19 was here, everyone needed to sign in at a supermarket to say that they were actually there. And now we have the situation where people saying, well, you shouldn't have that sort of clarity over when you arrive at a polling booth. I find that really interesting. What political party would actually say they don't support some sort of identification? Are they suggesting that that there is something going on and they don't want it caught up with? I mean, why wouldn't you want an identification when you go to vote?
Well, I can tell you the parties that don't support voter identification: Labor, the Greens and numerous independents in the Senate, because the Coalition and One Nation tried to address this in the Senate before this election and were knocked over by that number that made the majority in the Senate to knock it out. But seats in this election could go down to, and often they do go down to, just hundreds of votes. So if you have a family of 5 that go to 5 polling booths and vote, that's already 25 votes that shouldn't be there. They've got 20 bonus votes. So if that becomes an endemic practice in some electorates, that can decide elections.
And of course, some people might go for an absentee vote at a polling booth outside of that electorate, which in the big cities, you could have 4 or 5 electorates which are within a distance that you could travel quite readily. So it does seem like a very real issue. It seems like one that the AEC has reacted to, but not reacted in the way that maybe they should be. Let's follow this story, very interesting one through this election campaign and on polling day and thereafter as to whether there is a legal challenge on the AEC pulling down the Pauline Hanson One Nation video.